In a huge move by 52 states and 3 international organizations, the World Court, the International Court of Justice, ICJ, is to comprehensively review Israel's conduct in the occupied Palestinian territories, including over the most sensitive of issues, the status of the holy city of Jerusalem and the treatment of Palestinians. According to Human Rights Watch, governments that are presenting their arguments to the court should seize these landmark hearings to highlight the grave abuses Israeli authorities are committing against Palestinians, including the crimes against humanity of apartheid and persecution. Interestingly, Israel has provided written submissions but has not asked to participate in giving an oral presentation at the ICJ. So this post is about what 10 topic areas and questions are likely to be raised at the ICJ by the parties to the hearing and which the ICJ is likely to advise on. By way of background, if you didn't already know, there will be 6 days of public hearings at the ICJ. An unprecedented number of state parties and international organizations will each be given 30 minutes to put forward their views on the legal consequences arising from the policies and practices of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. What this in effect is going to be doing is the ICJ will for the first time asked to review over 50 years of Israel's policies and practices in occupied Palestinian territories. The ICJ will likely be asked to advise on a greater scope of issues than it did in 2004, when it advised over the legality or otherwise of the construction of the wall in occupied Palestinian territories. Now, the outcome of the ICJ hearing will be an advisory opinion, which is not legally binding on Israel and other states, nor is its opinion enforceable. And even though it's an advisory opinion, it does provide potential great moral weight internationally, especially in the court of public opinion. And why is the ICJ hearing taking place now? Because back on the 30th of December 2022, the General Assembly of the United Nations adopted this resolution 77247, in which, referring to Article 65 of the Statute of the Court, it requested the International Court of Justice to give an advisory opinion, paragraph 18, on the following questions, considering the rules and principles of international law, including the Charter of the United Nations, international humanitarian law, international human rights law, relevant resolutions of the Security Council, the General Assembly and the Human Rights Council, and the advisory opinion of the Court of the 9th of July 2004. A. What are the legal consequences arising from the ongoing violations by Israel of the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination from its prolonged occupation, settlement, and annexation of the Palestinian territory occupied since 1967, including measures aimed at altering the demographic composition, character, and status of the holy city of Jerusalem, and from its adoption of related discriminatory legislation and measures? And B, how do the policies and practices of Israel referred to in paragraph 18a above affect the legal status of the occupation, and what are the legal consequences that arise for all states and the United Nations from this status? The General Assembly voted 87 to 26 with 53 abstentions on this resolution. Israel, the United States, and 24 other members, including the United Kingdom and Germany, voted against the resolution. France was among the 53 nations that abstained. Now, when you break the resolution down, what the ICJ is being asked and potentially being asked is to advise on 10 huge topics. 1. Is Israel violating international law by preventing the rights of the Palestinian people to establish a Palestinian state and homeland? In other words, what territory is occupied Palestinian territories, and does this include the holy city of Jerusalem? 2. If the answer is yes, and international law is being violated by Israel in preventing a Palestinian state and homeland, is this because of Israel's A, occupation, B. Settlement program, and C. Annexation of Palestinian territory occupied since 1967, or all three? 3. Again, if the ICJ answers this question yes, are specific Israeli measures a violation of international law aimed at preventing a Palestinian state and homeland, especially the following measures? A. The altering of the demographic composition, character, and status of the Holy City of Jerusalem, and B. The way occupied Palestinians in the Holy City are being legally and practically discriminated against. Now, based on this, further questions arise. 4. According to international law, does Israel have a right to occupy, including establishing a wall and outposts in occupied Palestinian territories, Gaza and the West Bank? 5. According to international law, does Israel have a right to self-defense in Palestinian occupied territories, including Gaza and the West Bank, using military armed force? 6. If the answer is no, and if the ICJ advises according to international law, Israel does not have a right to self-defense in Palestinian occupied territories, would another state or international organization which provides verbal support and military aid to help Israel also be in violation of international law? 7. Has Israel and other states and international organizations committed war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide over the past 50 years in Palestinian occupied territories and the wider region? 8. According to international law, do Palestinians in Palestinian occupied territories have a right to self-defense and resistance to occupation, settlement, and annexation of occupied land by Israel? 9. Is Israel legally and practically racially discriminating against people of Palestinian descent and in Palestinian occupied territories, denying them equal status to Israeli citizenship and or protections under international humanitarian law? And 10. Can another state like the United States recognize the Holy City of Jerusalem as the capital city of Israel? Or is this part of occupied Palestinian territory according to international law? Now, Israel's reaction to the United Nations resolution and possible topics raised and issues at the ICJ is this: no international body can decide that the Jewish people are occupiers in their own homeland. Any decision from a judicial body which receives its mandate from the morally bankrupt and politicized UN is completely illegitimate, according to Israel's UN ambassador. Finally, the ICJ is likely to provide its opinion later in 2024. But what do you think? How would you answer these 10 questions according to international law? Feel free to comment, and to keep updated, subscribe for more.